Going on, guys? Coach Matrix here from Iron Foreign Center. Today's presentation is titled Considerations for Training High School Volleyball Players, Expanding on Traditional Strength Training Concepts for Young Athletes. So let's dive in. We'll start off with a brief sport overview. Of course, this is for indoor or court volleyball. Typically, we'll see the game played best of 5 sets, sets 1 to 4, 25 points to win by 2. And of course, the final tie-breaking set will be 15 points, win by 2. Now, some tournaments might have athletes playing in best of 3 sets just to kind of speed along the process of the final. But if we're looking at dual meets or team versus team, it'll always be best of 5 sets. We'll see 6 players in the court that rotate clockwise. The attack line divides the front and back 3. Positions 2 to 4 are in the front within 3 meters of the net, and positions 1, 5, and 6 are, of course, in the back. It is a chaotic game with an unpredictable environment, and athletes typically have to have high-level reaction times. An average rally or gameplay will last anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds, give or take, and work-to-rest ratio is approximately 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. So let's look at a positional overview. You'll have your setter, and these are your offensive coordinators or tactical specialists. Essentially, they're the ones that are the playmakers on the court. Your liberos or defensive specialists, they're the athletes that typically have the quickest reaction times, and they're in charge of the back 3, serve, receive, and they're in charge of putting the ball to the setter so they can set up an attack. Then we have our middle blocker or hitter. These are quick attack specialists, and they're typically the tallest players in the court. And of course, they're responsible for their blocking as well, so block specialists. We'll have our left side or outside hitters. They're your more consistent attackers, and they have a longer approach, sometimes up to 10 feet from the net. And we'll have our right side or opposite hitters. They're more technical attackers, and they're your outside blockers. So what are some key performance indicators in the sport? We'll typically look at their approach or the athlete's ability to generate as much height as possible from the attack line. And of course, this transfers to their actual attack, right? And this can be done using a simple Vertec device. We'll also look at their block height or block jump. It's their ability to jump as high as possible from a relatively stationary position. And as mentioned, this does transfer a block from a defensive end. So again, use a Vertec, you'll get the result you need. We could also measure arm swing velocity or their ability to generate as much power into the ball. If we simply use a radar gun, we can get that speed. And of course, we could just measure the athlete's height, right? Because taller players need less force to clear the actual net. And, of course, in volleyball, you can't teach tall. So what do some assessment standards look like for high school? We have women and men. So we'll start with the women. For approach, we're looking to exceed 9 foot 5 inches. For block, we're looking to be greater than 9 feet. Our vertical jump, hopefully exceed 18 to 21 inches. And our standing reach for height, 7.5 feet or 8 feet. For men, we're looking to exceed a 11 foot approach. For block, we're looking to exceed a 9 foot 5 inch block. And then vertical jump, hoping to beat 20 to 23 inch on the vert. And our height, standing reach, 8 feet to 8.5 feet. So what are some common injuries? We'll typically see injuries in the knee, ankle, and shoulder, and of course, sometimes lower back and the hands, wrists, and fingers. We'll kind of touch base on that in a little bit. Let's start with the knee. ACL sprains aren't uncommon, right? Again, chaotic, unpredictable environment. You'll see sometimes they jump and land in particular positions, or they might fall or dive for a ball, or pretty much any awkward position could lead to an acute injury. More chronic issue could be patellar tendonitis or jumper's knee, right? From repetitive jumping and landing, you might have some inflammation over time, right? That could lead to discomfort. So when we look at the ankle, ankle sprains, right? Anterior talofibular ligament sprain or inversion sprain, we'll see the most common ones. Again, a chaotic environment from landing awkwardly or being put in position. Shoulder, we'll see more repetitive injuries, right? Rotator cuff strains or tendonitis from repetitive high velocity arm swings, sometimes impingement. Other issues could include shin splints, again, common to repetitive jumping and landing. Low back pain from being in a forward bent position, right? Athletes in volleyball are typically more anteriorly dominant. You also might see sprained fingers sometimes from trying to block or set or, any of the actual gameplay. So what are our training objectives? It comes down to 2 facets. First, we're trying to build transferable qualities. In the weight room, looking to build explosiveness, strength, mobility, and stability, and of course, robustness to get us through a hard season. On the court, we're looking to improve speed, their agility, reaction time, and of course, gameplay and tactics. We're also looking to mitigate impact of stressors, right? We're trying to reduce any risk of injury as much as we can, or at least mitigate risk of injury, right? So again, we mentioned that, they do a lot of repetitive jumping and bounding. This could be anywhere from 100 to 125 jump contacts per practice. Again, leading to those previous issues we talked about before in the ankle and the knee. They also do many high velocity arm swings, anywhere from 20 to 35 swings per practice. That, again, could lead to repetitive shoulder issues. And because they also stand in a more constant forward bent position, this could potentially lead to some low back issues and hip pain as well, right? So again, just going back to that previous slide, you can see how those issues can pop up just from their sport play, right? So our job really is to fill in the gaps, right? Give them what they're not getting in practice. And of course, this is also dependent on the time of year, right? So we want to fill the buckets that aren't being filled to build that robustness to keep our athletes healthy all season long. So when looking to actually approach training, here's the breakdown. Some of our focuses, we're looking to do full range challenge, okay? Deep knee bending and deep elbow bending with varying degrees of shoulder flexion and extension, right? We want to make sure we actually keep that shoulder girdle healthy across all muscles. Multi-plane exercise, sagittal plane, right? Squat, knee, and hinge. Frontal plane, right? Our side or anything lateral, side lunges and squats. Transverse, might look to do more rotation or anti-rotation work, okay? So when actually putting this all together, some considerations we have to keep in mind. Time of year, right? Are we in the off season, in season? Are we at training camp, preseason, right? Because this will also dictate what buckets and gaps need to get filled, right? We also want to look and consider the athlete's training age or experience, right? Are they novice? They have less than 2 years of training experience, the intermediate or advanced, right? Because this will also dictate our exercise selection and our rep set schemes. And also our availability and access to them. Are we in the off season where we have 3 to 4 days a week? Or are we in season when we have 1 or 2 days a week, right? So you have to kind of consider the time of year, your accessibility, and of course the athlete themselves before putting a plan in place to be prepared to implement. So these next couple of slides, we've put some templates or frameworks together to kind of help make programming just a little bit easier. Of course, these are not the end all be all. These are just some examples of systems that you may find useful when looking to program for your high school volleyball athletes. So we'll start with the 3 and 4 day templates. Now we'll typically see these being used in our off season work where we have less court time, right? So less repetitive jumping, less stress from gameplay, that sort of thing, right? So if we have like a 4 day plan, we might look at a modified high/low moderate template. And all we're looking to do is mitigate stress from a CNS level, right? So when we talk about a high day, it's more high CNS activity or high CNS stress. Our low moderate is like a lower to moderate CNS stress, right? And of course, this will dictate and fluctuate throughout the week. And of course, you can see the framework there on the screen, right? So our high days, you might have, we always start with a dynamic prep activation, and we might see plyometrics being used, our Olympic lifts or loaded jumps, and lower body strength and some focus accessories. Some low moderate day might look like some bodyweight jumps or med ball throws. We'll typically do upper body explosive and upper body strength before doing our accessory work. Why? We know that upper body work is typically less intense on the CNS system, right? So again, those just undulate across the week. We can go a different route as well. If you want to do a 3 day template, we might look to use a modified tier system template, right? We have different priority focuses. So if we look at day 1, total priority, we might start with bodyweight jumps and throws, and before progressing to our main focus of our O lift or a loaded jump. If we go to day 2, our lower priority, we might do some plyometric work before going to our main focus of lower body strength. And of course, day 3, we might go do some med ball throws before going to our main priority focus of upper body explosive, upper body strength, right? So again, just some frameworks that you can use to help better guide your program. We'll give you some examples in the coming slides as well. Finally, some in-season templates you might find useful. Whether day 1 or 2, you can alternate, or if you want to, mix and match a little bit, that's up to you. Again, not the end all be all. It's just some framework that you might find useful to actually plug and play some selective exercises, right? So these days are high CNS intensive because, again, if we're in season, we want to be able to spin the plates. If we only have 1 day with them, we want to make sure that we get the most bang for the buck. So we see us doing bodyweight jumps and throws, might do some O lifts, low body strength, or we might start with lower body strength, go to upper body explosive and upper body strength, right? So again, you can kind of mix and match or pick the day that you feel is best representative for your athletes. So we're going to talk about some dynamic prep examples. Really what we're looking to do when we're focusing on our warm-up, we're looking to do a gradual build-up. And we typically take a more ground-up approach throughout multiple planes of movement before finishing with isometrics or CNS preparation. So you can see in the example there where it says prep work, We'll start with like some rollovers. We'll do like a prone handcuff for the shoulders. Might work up to the knees or quad position, doing T-spine rotations and Spider-Mans before going to reverse Nordics. Then we'll get them on the feet doing some hinges, some side lunges, calf raises, and then iso holds and like some low-level plyometric, right? You can also make it more specific or fun for your athletes, right? Give them some autonomy, give them some choice, right? So you could look at the specific prep example. You might say, athlete A can say, look, choose any of the 5 options on the menu and complete that as part of your specific prep, right? And again, make it fun, make it competitive. It's only going to get more buy-in and set the tone for the coming session. So here's a 4-day example using the modified high, low, moderate template. We won't go through all the examples. We'll just kind of highlight some of the points, right? So you can see on the high days, we're starting with more plyometric work before going into our loaded jumps or Olympic lifts. And then you can see us going to our lower body strength and focused accessory work. Same thing with the low moderate days. You can see that we're doing more explosive jumping, not necessarily plyometric jumping, but just explosive training and throws. And we'll also triset this because, again, we can kind of keep things moving before going into our upper body explosive and upper body strength, and of course, some more focused accessory work, right? So again, this is just an example of a template put together that has some things you can look at. Maybe you wish to implement yourself in your own program. And here's another 3-day example. Same thing. We're not going to go through everything. Just look at the highlighted priorities, right? So total priority, we're looking at our jumps before going to our O lifts. Our lower priority, we're doing some form of plyometric before going to our lower body strength. Upper priority, we're doing some throws. We're going to our upper body explosive and strength, right? So again, feel free to use those examples as you see fit, modify the exercises or the set rep schemes based on your demand as well. Finally, our 1 or 2-day example. Again, high CNS stress, so you'll see us doing our explosive training or jumps before going to an O lift or lower body strength or both, right? So you can see on day 1 there on the left, we do our mid-hang power clean before going into our lower body strength split squat, or you might start with a front squat wedge bilateral strength before going to upper body explosive and strength. So again, you can mix and match, or some just pick the one that you feel is best fit for your time of year and your scenario. Finally, we'll cover some focused accessory choices. So what we're looking to focus on is multi-plane as well as ankle, shoulder, and knee care, right? So we'll go across the top column first, right? So you can pick it by joint. So looking at the ankle, we might have them do banded ankle work, some loaded calf raises. You might have them do toe raises and walks, spring ankle from different levels, and of course some low-level plyometrics as well. If we're looking to take care of the knee, we typically will focus on deep knee flexion from varying degrees of hip elevation, right? You might do front foot elevated isometric. You might do a split squat isometric. You might do a rear foot elevated split squat isometric. We'll typically do some Spanish squats as well, or band TKs, just get more VMO. And then, of course, heel elevated squats, get more deeper knee flexion. Leg extension curls are also good alternatives as well. We're looking for shoulder care. We're looking to do a variety of external rotation exercises with varying degrees of shoulder abduction and flexion, right? Same thing with our bicep and tricep work. We're going to be making sure we have varying degrees of shoulder flexion extension, as well as changing the grip. We want to make sure we kind of cover all our bases of the shoulder. And then we'll also do protraction, retraction with scap push-ups and chin-ups. Again, just different degrees of shoulder flexion. We're looking at planes, frontal, transverse, and of course the posterior chain. Anything frontal plane is this ladder, right? We're doing side squats, side lunges, single arm shrugs, unilateral carries, or lateral sled variations. Transverse plane is our anti-rotation rotation work. You can see us doing on the GHD, reverse Russian twists, landmines, side toss with a med ball. Might do pal-off holds or anti-rotation holds with a band or a cable, and renegade or bird dog rows off a bench, right? Those are some examples. Posterior chain, anything you don't see in the mirror. RDL variations, back extensions, pull-throughs with a band or cable, shrugs, and of course hip thrust variations. Again, all great focused accessory choices that you can help make your athletes more robust when you have the time, right? So finishing off, here's some final thoughts. Keep it relevant to your context, right? Every situation is different. This is not the end-all be-all, all right? Everyone is unique. Make sure you are able to identify the needs and abilities of your athletes and, of course, adjust accordingly, right? You have a lot of freedom, a lot of flexibility, and now we just provide a couple more tools and models that you might find useful to make your program a little more effective. Accommodate weak links, right? Put constraints in place to help unique individual weak points, right? Some athletes might not be ready for a squat. If you have access to a leg press machine, put them on that, right? Make it easier for them to do the work you want done before progressing. Of course, being strength coaches, right? Make sure you do have progressions or regressions ready or any modifications ahead of time to plan for those situations. Again, we're looking to fill the gaps. Give them what they aren't already getting in practice. Of course, these needs will change depending on the time of year. So be fluid with your programming, communicate with the sport coaches, and of course, communicate with your athletes and what they need. That's it for the presentation, guys. As always, if you have any questions, email us info@ironperformance.ca. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest and greatest in strength conditioning. Till next time, guys, take care.